hope you are doing well. For today's video, I thought, as it is, well, midway through March now, we would sit down with a cup of coffee and talk about some of the books that I have read so far this year. So being a new mum, I don't have as much time for reading as I would have had in the past, but I think I'm finding new ways of enjoying books that are working for my new routine, particularly sort of being up in the night. So yeah, I'm going to talk you through a little bit about what I'm reading, how I'm reading, and books that I have and haven't enjoyed so far this year. So grab yourself a hot drink and let's talk books. So first of all, I thought I would just have a chat with you about how I'm reading at the moment. So I currently have, and this is so not like me, I currently have 3 books on the go at any one time at the moment, and I'll tell you why. So I have my Kindle. I'm a big Kindle fan, have been for a very long time. So I have a Kindle book that I am reading at night, sort of when I'm in bed and I need it to be dark, because obviously it has the backlight, so I can still read then. I'm also reading a paperback or hardback, depending on what I've got, because I have rejoined the library service. I haven't used the library service for such a long time, but I knew that when I had Freya, I really wanted to get back into using the library. I think they are such a fabulous resource that are struggling and need as much support as they can get. So when Freya was just sort of 5 weeks old, I took her to the library to register her. And the lady said she thought that Freya was possibly the youngest person she's ever signed up to the library service, which I was quite proud of. So I joined and Freya joined. And yeah, I've been really enjoying our local library. It's literally a 5-minute walk from our house. So I've been really enjoying like just pottering down there and having a little look at the books. They do like sessions as well. They do like a baby and toddler rhyme time, which we haven't been to yet, but I am planning to go to at some point. And yeah, I just feel quite passionate really about supporting the library service. I remember it so fondly as a child and being able to go and pick any of these books to take home with me, and I really want to instill that love for books into Freya as well. So yeah, I've always got a library book, an actual physical library book out at the moment. And then also from becoming a member of the library service, I did not realise how amazing the library service has become, sort of moving with modern times as well. So you can actually borrow ebooks. I haven't quite figured out how to get them onto my Kindle yet. If anybody knows how to do that, I would greatly appreciate your help. But you can sort of read them on your phone, and you can borrow audiobooks as well, and magazines. Like I was a Heat magazine subscriber that used to come through my front door every week, and I'd be so excited about it. And now I can borrow it from the library and read it for free on my phone, which is amazing. But what I've made the most use out of, I think, from the library service so far is borrowing audiobooks. I've never really been an audiobook person. I don't know if that's because I think Audible is quite expensive and I didn't really think I would use it enough. But audiobooks are perfection for night feeds with Freya. So when I was doing Freya's night feeds early on, I was getting up and watching Love Island All Stars in the middle of the night, but I was waking up a little bit too much. So what I prefer to do now is I pop a wireless headphone in and I listen to an audiobook. And it sort of keeps me sort of not waking up too much as well. It keeps me sort of calm and yeah, it's just really a really nice way to spend my time when I'm up in the night feeding Freya. So I've always got a Kindle book, a paperback or hardback, and an audiobook on the go at the moment. So I'm going to talk you through some of the ones that I've read and enjoyed so far this year. I also thought I would mention my reading goal for this year. So I use Goodreads to track the books that I've read and what I've thought of them. And they get you to set a sort of a reading challenge every year. So my reading challenge for 2024 is 30 books. I think my goal was 30 books last year, and I either just got it or I just didn't, I can't remember. But I've set my goal for 30 books again this year, and I've actually, with the audiobooks as well, I'm sort of totting up a few more than I would. So I've actually read 7 so far this year, which I thought was pretty good going for having a 2-month-old baby as well. So So yeah, that is my reading challenge for this year. Also, though, I would mention as well the app that you use for the library service to borrow ebooks, audiobooks and magazines is called BorrowBox. It's super easy to use, free to download obviously because it's part of the library service. And yeah, so that's where I've been listening to my audiobooks. So let's start with some of the Kindle books I have enjoyed this year. Side note, if you can hear Freya crying, she's not on her own, Craig's with her, so don't worry, I'm not a terrible mother. So Kindle books that I've read so far this year. I went into the new year not having finished a book, so my first read of this year was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am a big Taylor Jenkins Reid fan. I really enjoy her books, and I loved this one sort of set on the backdrop of sort of old school Hollywood, that sort of Hollywood glamour to it as well, and it's about, ironically, the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So Evelyn Hugo is now in her 80s in present day, and she's being interviewed by somebody taking sort of, and she offers her the chance to write her memoirs once she's died, publish it once she's died. So in the process of this writer getting all the information that she needs, Evelyn goes through the 7 husbands that she has had throughout the course of her life, and how each one treated her and what her life looked like at each stage, and it was just so brilliant. I really liked it. The character of Evelyn was mesmerising. I really loved her as a character. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid has got such good character writing. Like, she gives great depth to characters that just really sucks you in and makes you root for them, and she's also really good at writing horrible characters, and you hate them and what they're doing to your favourite character. So I really enjoyed it. I've seen a lot about it online. I've seen lots of people really enjoy it, and it absolutely lived up to the hype for me. And I really like in Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, I've read a few of hers now, and you find that characters from the different stories sort of pop up in each of the different novels. I really like how she sort of intertwines those characters, so a familiar character that you know from another book turns up in this book. So yeah, I really enjoy how she does that. I think it's so clever to sort of balance all of these characters throughout the course of different novels as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one and would definitely recommend. I give this one 5 stars. So the next Kindle book I have read this year was The Maid by Nita Prose. Similarly to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I'd seen a lot about this book. It came with quite high expectations. I would say it mostly lived up to those expectations for me. I did really enjoy the book. I think Molly as a character, Molly the maid, is a really interesting character. You know, she's penned as being different to everybody else. She's obviously sort of a neurodivergent character. She doesn't pick up on social cues, and she finds herself landed in the midst of this murder investigation. She becomes sort of a prime suspect because she's the maid who cleans the room, and she didn't sort of pick up on the fact that she was walking into a crime scene and merrily tidies it all up, sort of incriminating herself in it. Yeah, there was a few things about this book I really liked, and there were a couple of things I really didn't like either. So I found the character of Molly to have quite, you know, I don't really know how to put it. It was a bit far-fetched for me. Like, I totally get like the diversity of character, and I really enjoyed that aspect of her, but I also found some of the situations she landed herself in or found herself in to be quite ridiculous. So on the one hand, I was really like rooting for her. I felt so sorry for her that she was getting herself caught up in this when she was truly innocent, and then on the other hand, it was like well, that would never happen, like, that's ridiculous. So, you know, I know sometimes with books you have to put like reality to one side, but I felt like it was trying to be realistic but also going a little bit too far the other way as well. Having said that, I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. There is a new Molly the Maid story, as they're calling it, out now, called The Mystery Guest. I think it came out towards the end of last year. I'm not sure we need another story with Molly the Maid, if I'm honest. I don't think I'll be rushing to read it. I'll probably read it at some point, but I don't see how you could have another story where Molly finds herself in a situation like this. You would have thought she would learn from the first time, but I would hold reservations aside, of course, until I read it. But I don't think we need to see a reprise of this character. I thought it was quite enjoyable, but nothing really special. So book number 3 of this year was one that I got from Amazon First Reads. Now, I can't remember whether this is a perk of being an Amazon Prime member or whether you just get it for Kindle books regardless, but I get an email every month of the First Reads selection, and it's where you get a selection of books and you can pick one to read for free. I think it is a Prime feature, actually, now I'm thinking about it. So you can pick one to read for free each month, and it's sort of an early release, so you get it a month before it's actually being released. So every month when I get the email, I always pick one. So I've got quite a few backed up on my Kindle from the last few months, but this one I actually read, and it was called The Rise and Fall of Ava Arcana by Jennifer Banash. This one was an interesting one. I enjoyed it. I'm always, like with the First Reads, I always find that because I've picked it, but it's not a book that I would pick off the shelves myself. I find that they're a bit hit and miss, really. But this was one that I did really enjoy. It's the basis of it is you've got Ava Arcana, who was a sort of undiscovered pop star, and then you've got, in the present day, you've got Lexi Mayhem. Now, Lexi Mayhem is launching her own record label for female artists, and because she is such a powerhouse, she's being interviewed by a journalist from Rolling Stone magazine, and it's in the process of this sort of interview process that the journalist starts to find this person in the background of some of Lexi's earlier videos and things, and that person is Ava Arcana. And it turns out that Lexi and Ava were best friends, and they were sort of rising through the ranks, if you like, of their music careers at the same time. And then Ava, at a young age, ends up falling from the roof of a building and dying. And it's thought to be suicide, but over the course of the book you start to realise that the circumstances around it were a little bit more suspect, and you're sort of left guessing who of the characters that our journalist is interviewing in the present day might be responsible for Ava's death. So that was a really interesting idea, and it did keep me guessing. Like, if she interviewed a new person, I thought, oh, that's a bit suspicious. And yeah, I really liked the way it went between past and present. You were learning more about Ava's life at the same time as you were learning a bit more about what these people thought of her in the present day and why they were sort of a bit cagey about what had happened. So yeah, this one bobbed along quite nicely for me. I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. It had a great twist in it, one that I didn't particularly see coming. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. Nothing to write home about in my opinion, but very enjoyable to read. So yeah, there were 3 stars for that one. And then the most recent Kindle book that I have finished was The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Euginides, I would like to pronounce that as. Now, this one for me, I didn't enjoy. It's penned as a modern cult classic. I didn't know that it had been turned into a film in like 2005 or something, I think it was, with Kirsten Dunst, which I didn't know and I hadn't seen. But the reason I read this book is I subscribe to Lucy Jane Wood's YouTube channel, and I really enjoy her sort of book vlogs. And this was one of the ones that she rated most highly of her books of 2023. So, quite often I've read books as recommendations from her and I've really enjoyed them, but this one just didn't hit the mark for me at all. I just didn't get it. So the premise of it is you've got these 5 girls, the Lisbon sisters, and from the very beginning that, as the title suggests, they all commit suicide. One of them commits suicide quite early on in the book, and then it's the story of how the rest came to commit suicide as well, and the sort of mysterious goings on in the Lisbon house. but it's told from the perspective of the neighbourhood boys who are pretty obsessed with these girls, and it's sort of like it's them as men still trying to figure out what happened to the Lisbon sisters, but then telling it from the point of view of what they saw when they were younger. And I just didn't get it, and I just found it build up to what you know is going to be the death of these girls, and it just fell really flat for me. Like, I just didn't, you know, at the end of the book I felt like I still didn't know anything about the Lisbon sisters and why they might have done it. I felt like I was waiting for the moment, and it just never came. I didn't like the characters, I didn't like the setting, I just did not get on with it at all. And that's, you know, it probably should have been a did not finish for me, but I stuck with it regardless because I'd heard good things about it, and I just, yeah, like I said, just didn't hit the mark with me. I gave this book 2 stars, which is actually probably quite generous. I just can't bring myself to give a book a 1-star rating, I don't think. And I'll very, very rarely give a 2-star rating. Like, if I don't enjoy a book, I'll normally give it 3, just because I don't like being negative. But yeah, this was a 2-star for me, and I just was not the one for me. Okay, the next book I read this year was my first library book. It was a hardback book that I got out of the library, and it was a autobiography, and it was A Class Act by Rob Beckett. Big fan of Rob Beckett. I've recently just bought tickets for his new tour, which is not till 2025, which seems so far away, but I know that will come around quickly. And I listened to the Parents in Hell podcast with Rob Beckett and Josh Widdicombe. I've listened to that for a while now, even sort of before becoming a parent. It's even more relatable now, but I just absolutely love it. I think they're both hilarious. It's a really good listen. And yeah, I love Rob and Romesh's programmes as well, so I'm a big Rob Beckett fan, and this book just solidified that for me. It's called A Class Act, and it's sort of the basis of it is a working class man fitting into a middle class world. So he sort of explains the dynamic of his family, that he comes from a working class background and his wife Lou comes from a more middle class background, and it's how they're raising their children, where they fit in that working class or middle class vibe. I found some of the stories from his childhood so relatable and so funny. Even just from reading the introduction of the book, I was like laughing out loud, and I laughed out loud a lot while I read this. Craig kept looking over at me like, are you still here? I really, really enjoyed it. I said I found it relatable, I found it funny. I just thought it was a great book. I read it really quickly. It's the sort of book, like I've said I've got a few books on the go at the moment, but it's the sort of book that you can pick up, and it doesn't matter if you're reading a fiction book at the same time. You can sort of flip between the two, and it doesn't really, you don't get confused about characters or anything, obviously, because one's non-fiction and one's fiction. But I read it really quickly in a couple of weeks, and then passed it on to my mum before it was due. Me and my mum both managed to read it in the 3-week window that you get from the library, so I thought that was pretty impressive, and I think that speaks volumes for how good it was. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that, and I gave that an absolute 5 stars. Okay, so moving on now to the audiobooks that I have enjoyed so far this year. I'm tending to listen to autobiographies, particularly ones that are read by the author themselves. I really enjoy that as an audiobook premise. I haven't actually listened to any fiction audiobooks yet. I'm sure that time will come, but I've got quite a long list at the moment of non-fiction autobiographical audiobooks I'd like to listen to first. So the first one that I listened to this year was I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jennette McCurdy. Another one that has had such a big response online since it came out. I've heard so much about it, and obviously I don't know what it's like to read it as a book, but I would highly recommend listening to this as an audiobook, because it just gives it an edge of realness that you probably wouldn't get from reading the words yourself. You know, the emotion in it is got some very sensitive topics in it. Jennette talks about her relationship with her mum, who was quite emotionally manipulative, emotionally abusive, who sort of trained Jennette to have an eating disorder from a young age. and it was about her need for Jennette to be famous, and it's a harrowing listen. It really is. She's had a tough life, and you know, you want to reach into the book and tell Jennette, no, Jennette, this isn't normal. Like, you don't need to do that. And yeah, it's really hard. You just want to give her a hug. At so many points in the book, I just wanted to go, oh, like scoop her up and look after her, which I think is the sign of a really well written memoir. Like, at times it's really difficult to read, but her bravery in telling her story and how empowering that must have been to sort of hopefully put it behind her and move on. I'm really glad I listened to it as an audiobook and heard Jennette read the story herself. Yeah, it was at times awful, at times funny, at times endearing, and you just want to scoop her up and look after her. So yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that, and I gave that a 5 stars. The next audiobook I listened to this year, and only just finished this week actually, was another autobiography, and it was That Moment When by Mo Gilligan. And this one was really fun. I love Mo Gilligan as a comedian. I really like his TV shows and things like that, so I thought I would enjoy this, and I did. I didn't actually realise that Mo Gilligan was still sort of working in retail up until like 2017, 2018. His rise to fame was very, very fast. I enjoyed the stories from his childhood. I enjoyed some of the stories of how he came to be on the television, and I admired his sort of work ethic and things as well. And yeah, it was good fun. I don't think perhaps he's lived a life in the showbiz world long enough to have many anecdotes for autobiography. I think it was a lot more focused on his life before comedy, which is great. It's great to hear about. I don't think he's experienced enough to have written an autobiography yet, but some of the stories in there were quite amusing. It was fun to listen to, so I gave this one 3 stars. So those are the 7 books I have finished so far this year. Like I said, I'm quite pleased with myself to have got to 7 already by sort of mid-March. I'm hoping that I get a bit more of a chance to read as Freya gets into a bit more of a routine as well. But I thought I'd just share with you, so like I said, I normally have 3 books on the go at the moment, so what I'm currently reading. So on my Kindle, I am reading another one of those first reads books that I spoke about actually, and this one's called The Yacht by Sarah Goodwin. I'm only about 40 pages in so far, but super good so far. I'm enjoying it. What I've got out of the library currently at the moment is Queen Bee by Jane Fallon. I'm really a fan of Jane Fallon's books. I'm probably about a third of the way through this one, and I like it, really like the characters, like where the story is going. And then audiobook that I'm listening to for my night feeds at the moment, I'm actually listening to the Parenting Hell book. I said before that I love the Parenting Hell podcast. So the book is, I'm listening to the audiobook of that at the moment. I actually bought the paperback book for Craig for Christmas in my last ditch attempt to get that boy to read, which I doubt he'll pick up. So I was going to read it myself, but actually, again, it's worth listening to because Rob and Josh have sort of a little asides that won't be in the book, but sort of add a little extra bit of depth as well. And I know I haven't got to this part yet, but I know that there's sections by their wives and their parents as well, which are read by them too, so I think that's going to be a great listen. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that a little bit more. So yeah, that is my current reading situation. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully I will be able to get another book vlog done soon if I manage to read a little bit more. If you've got any recommendations for me of anything you've read so far this year that you've really enjoyed, then pop it in the comments below. I'd love to get some more recommendations. And yeah, hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.